Well, hello, and we are live, and we are really excited to have Brian. And Brian, the one thing I forgot to ask you is how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Alves?
Alves. Yeah,
Alves.
Alves.
Okay, I had a freaking
Elvis,
tradition.
elves at Christmas time, whenever you want. It's
So
okay.
Brian is.
So my Alvin and the
We were
Chipmunks.
trying to decide whether to introduce Brian as marketing mad scientist or marketing pioneer, but Brian is really looking at the future of marketing, and in particular,
Yeah.
right now, is really thinking about how AI is fitting into that future. And
Yeah.
so, with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to you, Brian, and just ask you what is on your mind.
What is on my mind right now is, of course, AI and marketing. It's on my mind all the time. And I actually just yesterday, I went to this seminar where they were talking about video marketing in AI. And some of the stats, and they took a very big chunk of information from a user group, and some of the stats were just incredible. And I'm really excited on one side, and then I'm like, oh boy, on the other side. So that's on my mind right now.
Well, but it's interesting though, because it's like this unique, it's like one of those unique moments, like when the internet first started or whatever, where it, like, there's just tons of opportunity, right? I mean,
Yes.
like I was saying this to maybe you the other day, I don't know who I was saying this to, but like anybody who claims that they've been doing this for doing anything for more than 6 months right now in AI marketing is kind of, making stuff up. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a learn as you go process,
I was gonna say, like, I bet though all of these recruiters are like who are out there recruiting is what we want at least 5 years of AI marketing experience.
Well, with how fast it's going, I mean, 5 years in a couple of hours, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
to be honest.
Well, and at this point, you just set up an AI agent to learn the stuff that you didn't learn yet. And now you and your AI agent have 5 years of AI marketing experience, right?
Yeah, pretty much under your belt.
What is the hot topic right now in AI for marketing, would you say?
Oh, so the hot topic right now is, am I going to lose my job? Right? That's like the dark topic on one side. And then on the other side, it's like, wow, am I going to lose my job? So it's like, kind of like the same thing. But, you have some people like myself who are like, all right, I got to pivot. I got to innovate. I really have to grow. I have to take advantage of this. Otherwise, I'm just going to fall by the wayside. And that's not like a, FOMO kind of thing, because we're all marketers. We love FOMO. It works.
Yeah.
But when AI comes into the picture, I have a video production background. I've been doing video production for years. I kind of mixed into the marketing arena about 15 years ago. And even the video production world is just upside down with, it used to be a niche industry where you have to approach a videographer. You're spending $10,000, $20,000, sometimes $30,000 for 30 seconds of content. And now it's like, an 18-year-old, I'm not being smashing anybody who's 18, but now my whole point is now anybody can do it for less money in a quicker amount of time with the best quality. So, on one side, you got to innovate and pivot, and those who are not, I see a lot online just complaining after complaint after complaint. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And it's like, simple, learn. Just, get your skills up, or you're going to fall by the wayside and end up not in the industry anymore. So, I'm always innovating, always learning. That's why I'm kind of like, what do I call myself? Mad scientist? Right. I mean, what is this? Just call me Brian at this point, right?
So Brian, I have a question. It feels to me like it runs a gamut, right? From helpful tools that you must know all the way to like a digital marketing assistant or digital employee and anything in the middle, right?
Yes.
Where do you think we are now kind of as a field, and where should we be after the shakeout?
Yeah, so we are in a shakeout right now. I think we're more in a discovery phase. As far as marketing and AI goes, I'm dabbling with agents. I'm actually selling agents because I know, I work with teams. I'm sort of like a CMO, fractional CMO,
right?
And I build these teams up. And, I find out that a lot of leadership is like, I don't want to spend $120,000 on, a social media manager when I can spend less on an agent and, an AI designed agent that can do less, can do more for less.
Right.
So, it's shaken up right now. And, I think everyone is about to adapt and grow into it quicker than we think at this point.
So I have a question. You were talking before about people losing their jobs and so forth, but I have an opinion on this, but I'm interested in your take on it. Do you think when the shakeout is done, there will be more or fewer marketing jobs out there?
Yeah. So, that's a good question. This is the $1 million question. I think it'll be more focused. Okay. I mean, you still need a human involved. Like, for example, where I'm working now, there was an 8-person team, one person doing this, one person doing, 8 in total. Whittled it down to 4. And then I had, one person, let's say social media manager, take on the job of content creation. And that was used with an AI agent, an AI tool.
Right.
So now you have a 4-person human team and a 4-person AI agent team.
Right.
Total combined. So I think it'll be more efficient, cut down and more efficient based on cost and effectiveness and impact. So, that's why you should fear losing your job if you don't know AI. I don't want to strike fear in anyone, but
on the flip side,
you have to know it.
Don't you think that it will democratize it a bit in the sense that we've discussed this before, Brian, like there's many companies who basically just throw their hands up and be like, I can't even afford to think about marketing. It doesn't work. I got to go just use, conferences and whatever. Now you have all these companies that they only need to hire one, or they only need to hire the fractional. And now so in other words, maybe your job is in a different place, but there may actually be space for more companies doing interesting marketing approaches.
And also different responsibilities, right?
Yes.
Because we just have to look at things, because now you just have this extension of your team or assistant or the tool agent, whatever you call it, right? That does a lot of $10 work. So we could, focus on $200 an hour work and $500. So it's like literally, optimizing the bang for the buck, so to speak, on the team.
Yeah, pretty much. So the residual of all of this is what I'm finding out. Now I'm dealing with like 3 or 4 companies right now. I mean, Jeff, Eric, I was at one the other day, big healthcare agency here in Massachusetts, their headquarters. And, they're not ready to adopt it yet. They're just not ready because AI is still somewhat unstable. But one of the big problems that was addressed yesterday was, the workers were actually in the room with me, and I was talking to them, and they're like, okay, so now I'm going to be doing 3 jobs, 3 people's jobs. I'm going to have, I'm going to be the human and then 2 AI. That means that the weight of those positions are on my shoulder. That means I have more work. Right. So you have, all right, we're going to be super efficient and fast and create awesome content, but then we're putting it on one human to do all of that, which means like double the time. I mean, the residual is like, what's the outcome of all of this,
Oh yeah, and the responsibility,
Absolutely.
right? Because ultimately the responsibility for it being strategic and right and on time and correct, it's on the human member of the team.
Absolutely. And it's more work, so...
Yeah, I think we are in this position. Jeff and I always talk about, we in high school, we read this play called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. And there's this moment in that play where one of them says to the other, I don't remember which one it was. But it's like people think when they're dead, they're going to be alive in a box. In other words, you don't know what your future is going to look like, but you assume it's going to look like what's happening today, just in a new box. Right? And so the question, I think we don't know what the new world of marketing is going to look like in 5 years. We don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months. In 5 years, I think it's just so far out there.
Yeah, 5 years. It's going to be all robots doing everything, right? I mean,
well, but it will be robots, but you will still need this human, because I still think it's going to be a long time before the people buying stuff are not human beings anymore. And even so, like, okay, so now how do you, if you have an AI assistant that's out there buying stuff for you, how do you influence people to influence their AI assistant to buy a specific brand? It's like, I know that that's a little bit like head exploding, but I think that's what we're going to be headed towards.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, I mean, I'm in the moment, I'm in the now, and you know, I'm really excited about what the future holds, whatever that might be. I think we're, you know, to some extent creating a big beast, a big monster that, as far as the marketing world goes, you know, we need to take advantage of it. And I know across the board, nationwide, you know, I'm involved in local marketing groups, nationwide marketing groups, and you know, the buzz is you need a human involvement in this, you know, in content creation and marketing, because
Right.
if you're solely going to give it all over to AI, you know, where's the authenticity? Where's the
Right.
humanization? Where, and that's what makes people buy from people. People
Right.
don't buy, you know, products because, you know, people
You need
buy
the
from
storytelling.
relationships. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
ultimately, if you flip it and you think about the customer only wants certain information pertaining to their certain specific needs and certain specific challenges. So there needs to be a great filter on how do we, you know, make sure that our customers only get what they need rather than this overwhelming littering of
Yes.
AI.
You know,
Yeah,
that's
but
the other thing.
that's where I think there's a chance that the number of jobs goes way up, because now, because potentially you've got to create personalized, you know, I see this in the sort of medical field, personalized medicine, but personalized advertising, personalized marketing requires people to really start thinking, not necessarily on segment lines, but like on individual lines. And the AI can actually help you figure out, you know, much more granular classes. You know, you can't even call them segments anymore, but they could be, you know, you could be targeting a dozen people who you know are going to buy enormous amounts of your product, as opposed to sort of generally blanketing as many people as you can and hoping you find one person who buys 10% of that. So
Yeah.
I think personalized advertising is going to, and that sounds scary because it could be super annoying, but I also think it could be actually less annoying in some way. I'm sure
And
people
less,
will just maintain the level of annoyance. I'm sure that's one given, I think.
and less expensive from the company's perspective too, right? Because I know a lot of, you know, pray and spray marketing goes out there. Let's just, you know,
Yeah.
put an ad out on Facebook. That's our target market. But now with AI, you can get really, really granular, really focused and specific, and that growth will happen. So there are, you know, there are weights and measures to this introduction to AI in the industry and in marketing, and it does have its good and bad, just like everything else. Like yesterday, I was at this conference, online conference, and now you have these UGC, you know, these user generated content videos where the AI avatar actually holds the product. So the guy showed the video and it was like excellent. Like, wow, oh my gosh, no way. This is so awesome. And it was like a, you know, skincare product.
Right.
All of a sudden the person's eye like went all crooked. I'm like, okay, it's not really there yet. So, you know, it's like, I was buying it until that point where the avatar's eye kind of just got bigger.
Right there, when you need the human to say, oh, cut here, cut here.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the, you know, Eric and I have been having this conversation for a while, because, you know, we were trying to sort of put our finger on, like, why is it that when a new AI tool comes out, you kind of go, that's really amazing, and then the second time you see it, you're like, yeah, that's amazing, but there's something weird here. And then the third time you're like, this is definitely AI. And what we think it is the problem that you run into is it's great. It really does a good job, but it does this almost the same job every time.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
lack of variation. And so we actually started
That's scary.
playing.
Or the ways that it screws up are consistent too, right?
Yeah.
It's always making your eye like that or whatever.
Right, like the first time
Yes, but remember, Eric, that's not going to last because it is training
100%.
itself on all the
Yeah.
screw ups,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Scary.
Yeah.
Well, right, and that's a sort of amazing thing. I think, I'm gonna go back to I probably, well, whatever. It's a long enough time ago. Nobody will get mad. But when I was at the Hershey Company in like the sort of 2007 through 2014, the general view was we're not going to dip our toe very far into internet or digital marketing because we don't know if it works. I realize that 2007 sounds ridiculously late for that attitude, but that was the prevailing attitude.
Yeah.
And the problem with that attitude is not so much that they were wrong. I mean, it's probably true. A lot of the stuff that we were doing from a digital marketing perspective in, that era was probably crap, right? But the problem is that if you aren't testing out, trying out all these new technologies, as they come out, what will happen is you will basically be starting from scratch when everybody else is, 5 steps ahead of you. And I guess your hope is that, like, the theory is, okay, we're going to see how this technology plays out. And the problem with that attitude is that worked well in probably the 90s, right? Because the technology didn't come out that fast, right? But it doesn't work well in a world where literally the technology that existed, last week has
yesterday.
Right. So
I'm curious, Brian, how do you think you go about taking these people who are like, we're just going to sit on the sidelines, this is too scary, we don't know, what? How do you get them to be in this sort of, how do you twist that pain point enough to be like, hey, if you wait 5 more years, you're going to have missed a lot, but even more importantly, you're going to be so far behind that catching up is going to look a whole lot different.
Yeah, so I think the proof is in the pudding, pretty much. I mean, if you live and breathe this every day like I do, I mean, everything is changing so dramatically. But you still do have these foundational sort of products that are out there that, you have HeyGen, you have 11 Labs, you have, as far as content creation, you have, tools that are foundational and that are stable. And then you have these other tools that are just like, out there, like, video production, for example, with the eye, that's still not perfected yet. So it's nice to get kind of, any company. I know when I talk to a CEO and when I talk to any leader, they're always innovative anyway. So it's kind of easy to say, we need to jump on this right now. Have a testing phase, have like a little lab, a little sandbox. But here's what we're going to try now. We're going to tiptoe into it and slowly dip our toe into it. But at least you're doing that instead of saying, okay, let's wait. Because the big kicker to any CEO or leadership is you're going to be behind and your competition is going to be way ahead of you and your sales team is going to be yawning. So that's what usually gets them, the fire starts getting them motivated to be like, okay, we have to implement this now. And it's really easy because CEOs are like this anyway. They're innovative, they're quick, they're on top of technology. Their interest is to grow the company. And with that, they're willing to listen and start anything that needs to be started in order for that growth to keep going. So it's easy to some extent.
How are you seeing more pushback from the CMOs or
from the chief marketing officers?
Yeah. Are they pushing back or are they on board?
I'm seeing a lot of pushback from the management type level.
Right.
Like,
because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. Right?
Yeah, they're afraid they're going to lose their job, for one. The efficiency, the speed, what happens to the staff, very, negative to some extent. CMOs, CEOs, C-suite, executives, leadership, let's do it. Let's get on it. And, the smart CEOs really do it quickly.
Right.
And they're investing money into it, but taking it one step at a time. They know it's there. They know it's going to grow. But again, because of the innovation and that mindset, they're implementing it. I see more pushback with the management level and the staffing level.
It's interesting you say this because there's this. I don't think I got this out earlier, but if I did, stop me. But there's this blogger in the biotech world who's fairly well known, and he at one point said chemists, because chemists were all worried about losing their job for similar reasons. Chemists aren't going to lose their jobs. Chemists who don't learn how to embrace AI are going to lose their jobs. And this is what you're describing is the marketers who are refusing to embrace AI, and they're the ones worried about their jobs trying to keep it out, and they're the ones who are probably the most likely to lose their jobs.
Pretty
But you
much.
have to figure out how to use it.
Yes. And this is the mantra that's been going on. You know, it's like it's your choice if you lose your job because you're not learning something new.
Right. It's a little bit like I've seen this actually we had a guest on many months ago who was talking about this in the academic world, where many universities are focused on students are going to use AI to cheat. And it's like, that's a little bit like saying like students are going to use Excel to cheat, or students are going to use calculators to cheat, or like this is going to be the most important tool that these people are going to be using in their careers. And you're basically saying, don't use it, right? I mean, I can't, like, I do simple things that, you know, we all probably do, you know, with ChatGPT or whatever when I'm teaching, and students are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that it could do that. Like, what, why are you not playing with it? Because they've been essentially told this is bad. You might accidentally, you know, get, you know, written up for plagiarism. It's like, folks, plagiarism is probably gonna be a thing of the past. Like who cares? Like everything's plagiarized now. You know, like
I believe it. Yeah, it's true.
You know, because you know, if you don't learn, you're gonna be stuck, right? You can't move forward. So I do think there's that. One question I did have for you is, interestingly, Eric and I have been talking to a lot of agencies. And we get sort of two different responses about AI marketing. And one of them is kind of oh, this is interesting, you know, let's talk more. And the other one is, oh, this is never going to work for our clients. They're going to always want the human touch. So interested in your take on, have you run into those attitudes from an agency perspective? And
yeah, agencies, I don't really deal with agencies. I'm like C-suites, you know, CEOs, leadership level, VPs, all that kind of stuff. So as far as agencies go, I'm not quite sure the motivation and you know, why they lean on one side or the other. But my guess is, again, you know, most of them don't want to lose their job. They, you know, that retainer, that monthly retainer to an AI agent, that's like, that's bad, you know?
Well, I think this is the interesting question. It sort of all boils down to like what historically throughout our careers, content creation has been very expensive.
Yes.
In terms of both time and dollars. And ultimately what's happening is we are moving into a world in which content creation is becoming very, very cheap. And so what does it mean in a world where content creation is cheap? What sort of mindset shifts you have to make? I think that's sort of, to me, the fundamental question. So
so mindset shifts. Maybe Jeff, you can switch over to our AI employee and see.
We're going down a rabbit hole with that one.
All right. So usually I glance at these before, so I have no idea what these say. Just Brian, for your knowledge, I asked it here. Here are 10. Can you give me 10 funny questions to ask a marketing expert with a company called marketingnerds.ai? So it gave me 10. I will ask you 2. I have literally not even looked at them. Usually I say, do you want absurd first or thought-provoking first? But I'm just going to go with 2 random ones.
I'm sweating.
Okay.
All right.
This one's absurd. Okay. Its first answer was, if AI could run a marketing campaign for a goldfish, what would the tagline be?
Oh my goodness.
That is so random.
What? A marketing campaign for a goldfish.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure how we got that.
How would you?
I don't know if you like to say this, but is it for like a site called OnlyFins?
Good one, Eric.
Anyway, wow.
Oh my God!
I would say that was your dad.
That might have gone a little too far. I apologize.
Yeah, that's a total dad joke right there.
Are we sure that Chad wrote it and not Eric?
Yeah.
Are we sure that Eric is not a chatbot? Is the other?
So here's one. So here's one that's a little less.
I actually like that one. That one's actually getting my brain going, Jeff, on the
The
goldfish
goldfish.
one, because
What are you thinking?
yeah, so I'm thinking right now there's a huge market for mental health, right? I was actually just talking about this morning. Huge market for mental health, and fish tank, a goldfish, can really help with your mental health. I mean, it's very relaxing. Pets are cool, especially goldfish. But that was actually for the goldfish, right? So the goldfish is my client, and I'm trying. So it's
well, goldfish
totally
trying to
unrelated.
sell more goldfish, right?
Yeah,
a little bit like the eat more chicken, right? Like
there you go.
All right.
Number two.
Question number 2. What is harder to explain? What is harder, explaining the concept of ROI to a client or explaining AI to your grandparents?
Oh my God. Well, actually, explaining AI to my grandparents is actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty easy because, they have Alexa, and they think that's AI. Hey, Alexa, turn the TV on, put the lights on. So I think that's easy. ROI, explaining
By the way,
it.
Ryan, Alexa just turned the TV on.
Are you serious? Yeah. With this microphone, it makes me, in your room, makes me feel like I'm there.
You were saying about
so ROI is most difficult. You can explain return on investment. You can explain through, until you're blue in the face, but you got to show it, not only performance wise, but data. So explaining ROI is super hard. So
and ROI
that was a good question.
Marketing is even harder than ROI in some other fields. So
yes, and try to prove that with AI too, right?
Everybody's definition of ROI and as it pertains to their business and what they want to see, as objective as it should be, often it's somewhat far from being objective.
And as you've talked about before, Elena, is this concept of attribution being really, really hard. How do you know?
And it's there and it's real.
Yeah.
Again, with AI, it's going to be more trackable, right? So that's going to be good, but it's going to be with us for a while.
Yes. And one thing about ROI, since we're talking about the topic, is that, the reason why leadership, at least in my world, the reason why leadership, CEOs, et cetera, C-suite, the reason why they're implementing this and they're trusting AI is because they want that ROI. Some of them don't trust marketing anymore, right? Marketers. They're like, all right, I want to trust this to something that's AI, and they want that ROI. So, in 5 years, if this is not cutting it, say goodbye to, AI bots, all of this buzz that we're in right now. If it's not bringing that ROI, forget it.
And I think that's where we're going back to sort of the earlier part of the conversation. I think that's where the human, like, if you think about strategy, right? If everybody has access to the exact same tools and so forth, then it's going to be a standstill, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to have the perfect tool or whatever. So the really interesting question is not going to be what can AI do, but what can humans think of to do with AI, right? I mean, that's really the
exactly right. Nobody cancels strategic thinking. It's
That's
just
right.
like Eric said, it's going to be more democratic, as if everybody suddenly got a marketing budget.
Right.
Because everything is now $39 a month, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
AI assistant.
Well, so that's an interesting question.
By the way, we should market T-shirts. WWAID. Like the WWJD. Yeah. What would AI do?
What would AI do? Yeah, that's cool.
We probably make
it does anything now as you want it to, believe it or not.
Well, so one of the things that I actually put the topic in the title of this episode of AI agents and how AI agents are talking about. Maybe we sort of actually talk about what's in the title of this. Like, what is your take on this idea of AI agents per se? Where do you think that idea is headed?
So the changing marketing. So I'm into AI agents. I build AI agents. I love AI agents. They're changing marketing in a way that existing teams can be strengthened. Right. If they utilize it right, because AI is, like we talked about, is not perfect yet. So it's nice to have that human intervention, and it's nice to have that marketer who knows how to handle that agent. It's nice to have someone to know how to do prompts and who's familiar with it. But AI agents are changing marketing. I wouldn't say like a total change. It's transforming marketing is probably a better word.
Just so we're on the same page, when you say an AI agent, what defines an AI agent over a chatbot or something like that? Is it they actually can perform a specific action?
Yeah. So let's say monthly social media analysis, like what was the sentiment, analyzing data. I know I use AI a lot to analyze data. I take a G4, Google G4 spreadsheet, takes all that data from Lookout Studio and I place it into Claude and I say, what needs to be done for next month that needs to be improved? And within like 2 minutes, it gives me output. Before in the past, that took, a couple of days, weeks even. And now I just ask an AI bot, here it is, and you get it for free without spending money on anyone. Right. But that adds to my workload. See, so it's like for that loss, you also have to have something pick it up. And
but it adds to your workload because you're doing the action, or rather, it adds to your workload because you've now taken something that used to give you 2 or 3 weeks of break time to do some other stuff. Now you have to do everything you were going to do in those 2 to 3 weeks, and you have to be moving forward in this. Yeah,
correct. Like I used to have a direct report that came to me with the analytics, coming to me with data. Now I go to an AI bot, I upload the information and it gives it back to me in 2 minutes, and that takes a good 45 minutes of my time onto my workload. So
the interesting part is that we knew how to find the mistakes with direct report, right? Because you kind of know where to poke around. With AI, it's a completely different thing, right? Yes. On one hand, it gave you all the answers. On the other hand, you're looking at the answers like, okay, how do I know if it's right? Right. Yeah. So you have a whole new way of training us on how to use AI and, how to do QC. And again, with AI evolving so fast, when ChatGPT just came out, the way I QC'd it then and the way I QC it now is completely different because you can see how it's doing, a better job in a matter of months.
Well, and the other thing that's going to start happening is people are going to start realizing you can use one AI agent to write it, another AI agent to edit it, and so forth, back and forth. You can get very specific in your prompts to make sure that it, like I could have 15 different AI agents that are editing my document with different sets of expertise, just like you might pass it around the office and say, okay, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Can you start to get really, really close to what you would have produced? And I think the other important piece of this is how perfect is it when human beings do it? We tend to expect absolute perfection from AI. We do not expect the same thing from human beings. We accept that things have sort of a wiggle room to get it, close to right when it's people, not when it comes to AI. If you don't do exactly what I would have done, you're wrong. Well, what you would have done may not have been as good as you thought it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's probably also part of it is you're going to judge AI by its 10 worst answers and your human folks by their 10 best answers. And that's not a fair comparison. So
yeah, it's true. So I mean, one thought in my mind, and I think we're a little over here, but
we're getting to the end. But give us your thought, and then we can do our once around and go give our.
So I think agents are, I tell my staff and I tell my team, this is an exoskeleton for you. This is a robotic agent that you can take advantage to enhance your job and keep your job if you learn it. So it's use it.
Yep.
And it just makes everything look better at the moment. So that's my thought.
So I feel like maybe if I had said, let's go around and say one thing, that you want to leave the audience with, you kind of just did, but because you said it beforehand, I'm going to make you say another one. We always go around and do one thing you want to leave the audience with. I always make our guests start first. It's kind of like a hazing thing. We don't give you any time to think, and I always get to go last, which is just the way that it's just worked out. So what's one thing you want to leave our audience with?
Don't be afraid of AI. Use it to your advantage. Again, it's like your exoskeleton that will give you a superpower, especially in the marketing world.
Awesome. Well, Brian, before I jump in with my one thing, what is the best place for people to reach you if they want to work with you, talk with you, learn from you?
Let's see. My last name is not marketingnerds.ai, but you can check me out there. Brian at marketingnerds.ai. You can find my website right there, which just went up at the beginning of the year, and it's in development, but it has a nice foundation on it right now and a lot of training and good stuff. So marketingnerds.ai.
Awesome. Well, I think for me, I guess the thing that I'll leave the audience with and that I'm going to walk away with is I just think that we're sort of in this weird moment where we know things are going to change and we are thinking about the future as sort of like, an extension of the past. But the reality is the future is going to be something that we're not even imagining yet, especially with the speed at which the technology is changing. So I think that'll be interesting. And I might have just stolen Eric's one thing so that he now has to think about something else. I'll pass it to Elena.
That is the danger of going last, is that you guys all say
exactly right. There's a benefit and there is a danger. But I want to build on what Brian was saying, is that embrace AI in marketing and in any other field, because frankly speaking, it's touching just about everything. And my spin on it is the need to learn fast and at all times. If we had years before to learn something, now it's months and even weeks. So that, I think, is the biggest take to any workforce member, be that a new career, mid-career, or executive. If we don't learn, we have to learn. So that's my take, and I'll pass it over to Eric.
Yeah, so I'm going to play off of what Jeff was saying. He didn't quite steal my comment, but is this question of is AI in marketing going to add work or subtract work? And I think the jury's still out, but I do think that we have seen, and actually I think I just heard this morning in a book I was listening to, that for every job the internet took away, 2.5 jobs were created. So I think that there is a potential that more jobs will be created than lost. The industries that are going to be enabled. Now, what's going to be really interesting is how often is this cycle of, if this is getting faster, are we accelerating? It's going to remove those jobs more quickly than we're used to. So going back to your points, Brian and Elena, you got to keep on top of it and keep learning it and not be afraid of it. Brian, this was an amazing conversation, so much fun. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Awesome.
Thank you.